Changing the name to Braverman Found with a question mark. He's supposedly going to go to work for Eric Schmidt. So Eric Braverman's going to work for Eric Schmidt. I think Wendy Schmidt, Eric's wife, has the foundation. So the Google Foundation, basically. So going from the Clinton Foundation to the Google Foundation. I'm just wondering if the Google Foundation is now the Clinton Foundation. I wonder if all those players that were leaving the Clinton Global Initiative are all just moving to the West Coast. The story really it's getting better and better. What's so good about this is all the way through I've been saying, this is really kind of a Hamlet story, finding the brave, metaphorically, finding the braver man inside you, to fight this kind of stuff with the stingers and the sarin gas and the kidneys and the human trafficking and all that organ harvesting. And when do you stop it? When do you say to the CIA, we got to stop it? And there's been two kind of inflection points in the CIA's history. There was Kennedy, who said, I'm going to break the CIA up into 1,000 pieces. And then, well, it didn't work out so well for him. And then Frank Church in 76, and he ended up dying young of cancer. About the age of 57 or so. So the guys who've gotten in the way of this didn't do so well. And I'm going to introduce a third guy, Steve Jobs, a little bit later, because that's fundamental to the Eric Schmidt story. So this story is, from going forward, is now that we've connected Braverman with IHRC and USAID to Haiti so tightly in this series really is going to be Braverman Found, Who Killed Monica Peterson. Then when Braverman does come out for the first time and for an interview, I'll change that question mark to a period, or I might even just drop Braverman Found altogether. But as I mentioned before in the previous slide, placing all these weapons in caches all over Europe, and then creating all these disruption groups through Otpor and so forth. The same thing's gone on in all over the world, 192 countries, including the United States. I guess that's the big point I wanted to make. And the reason being is during the Vietnam War, Cy Hirsch came out that there was that program in the United States. So, to basically declare martial law, which is maybe what we're pretty close to right now. So it had to go covert. It had to go covert. So 1974-75 Frank Church Committee, you no longer can have this part of the budget. You can no longer have your operatives, informants, whatever you want to call them. You can no longer have your soldiers with lots of military bases and so forth. You got to close the military bases and make it look like they don't exist anymore. Just have them on the coast then. So this whole thing has to submerge and go down to the kind of Michael Morrell level here at the Quasimodo level, and as it submerges and people are not watching them, then the sarin gas comes out and then the organ harvesting comes out and all this stuff. I would rather have military bases again in the U.S. And have a budget where we just say, look, we spend 60% of our budget on a reaction force against the American people to put down a revolt. That would be a much better way, because then it would eliminate the Michael Morells of the world. You wouldn't need these Richard III's kind of lurking off the side of the stage all the time with their chicanery and machinations. So here it is. I mean, the 6.5 trillion missing from the U.S. Treasury. These are for the Gladio programs. Those programs I was just describing were Gladio programs, like the one that Braverman apparently knew a lot about, being run right now by DynCorp in Haiti, as well as the ones DynCorp is running in Syria and Iraq. So 3 classified budget programs. This is, Hillary deleted 2 terabytes of email, and we hope this doesn't happen to Obama's email, when she was Shadow Secretary of State from 1993 to 2001. And this Lel Brainard, it says right there's 3 classified documents that were not turned over. That's the 6.5 trillion. That's going to be the Europe and Middle East, and then the Central South America and the U.S. Canada. So Those are the Gladio programs. Again, I wasn't the first one, not by a long shot. Cynthia McKinney, back in 2004, directly tied those two things together. I don't know if I've made that clear. She said, her first question is, why are we giving corporations like DynCorp contracts, government contracts? They just got another $10 billion one, and they just got another $2.4 billion. They're getting them through real fast before Trump comes in. When you've got sex trafficking, I'll show you on my previous one this morning, they're doing the organ harvesting as well from the prisoners, and they're doing the organ harvesting and the sexual trafficking of the kids. They did it in Kosovo, they did it in Bosnia, they're doing it in Syria, they're doing it in Mexico, they're doing it, I just don't want this to come to the United States. Maybe they're already doing it, I don't know. But I know they're doing it there. The next question she asked Rumsfeld is, where is the missing $2.3 trillion from the DoD budget? She says in the interview, you're the reason why we can't balance the budget. It's because of DoD. Does forgetting about it and bearing this for 13 years make it any better? 14 years now? No, it's up to 6.7 trillion. Some people say it's up to 9 trillion with the 2 trillion that Obama printed. It doesn't get any better. Now, I know what the DynCorps are going to say is, oh, we'll collapse the economy and we'll wall everything off. We'll be fine, and then let the peasants fight it out. But if you're not in a protected area, you're on the other side of the barbed wire with weapons, you have to live in this world. So all been done before. This, if you haven't seen this before, Valerie Plame's the one who says she's a non-official covert officer. This is the thing where they say the secretary will disavow any knowledge. If you went to the CIA today and said, is Valerie Plame a NOC, it's called a non-official cover, they'd say no, but she herself says I was, and it's a known program. So her husband, Joe Wilson, you're going to find out Eric Schmidt is going to be a NOC. And I'll show you exactly how that happened. Anyway, speaking of, since the story is kind of moving from this East Coast to now the West Coast. So I'm going to talk more about Jeffrey Epstein on the West Coast and more about New Mexico. And there was a brownstone operation that was being run in Palo Alto, speaking of Steve Jobs. And that ruined a lot of Apple people's lives in the mid-90s. But it's the same thing over and over. If I haven't made that clear, it's the same. It's like putting in the McDonald's movies coming out. It's like putting in a McDonald's, these brownstone operations. There's a special kit they have. They order it, the thing, it gets shipped. It's all ready to go, all the compartments, the cameras, the lights, everything, all low light. The Science and Technology Division of the CIA does this. So this is what they do. This is standard. This isn't weird. These 142 kids, tip of the iceberg, guaranteed. And again, I want to remind everybody, this Steve Feinberg's brownstone right here in New York City near the Council on Foreign Relations, he's going to be the guy in charge in 2 days. He's going to be the guy in charge of the investigation. So it's hard to imagine. Here's the Eric Schmidt versus Steve Jobs thing. Bill Gates, he's going to be a knock. I'm telling you right now. What the knocks do is they send the knock in when a technology is taking off. So, for instance, Jobs was taking off with the interface for the Mac. And they sent Gates in with a lot of money to do a deal so that they could they want to control the technologies. The CIA does not want to get behind on the technologies. Now, it was painful watching Microsoft spend 7 years to try to come up with a replacement for Windows. I think they finally did it in 95. I think it was like 11 years, really, because Windows 3 was the first one that worked. And Jobs was out in 84. But Jobs was a thorn in their side from day one. And I'm very close to this situation. I was with Sun. I used to work for Eric Schmidt, so I'm very close to this, way down in the Bouges, but anyway, indirectly. But if you see here, this is PRISM. This is for the bulk collection. This is for the government collecting your data. And this is why it wasn't just it's not targeted at just terrorists. It's targeted at everybody, because there's going to be the people on the other side of the barbed wire and people on our side of the barbed wire, and literally. So you can see how when Eric Schmidt first was brought into Sun to kind of take over Sun because the Unix thing was taken off, and kind of steer the company a little bit more toward where they wanted to go. He's brought into Google to do the same thing. Cell phones were taking off, so that's why the whole stab in the back, the meeting where he stole all the software and gave it to and made Android. That was all Eric Schmidt. This is Confessions of an Economic Spy is what the title of this book should be. Eric Schmidt is that guy. I mean, he did it back here, and even before that in the board meetings and so forth. He'd say, "Oh, I'm going to step out of the board meeting," though the frickin' board meeting is completely bugged. So, anyway, Jobs said, "Over my dead body, I'm not giving the government. The government the information." And look how late. Here's Facebook, another plant with Zuckerberg, and all these other ones. PayPal, YouTube was another. They bought YouTube in order to get that information, and so forth, and finally AOL. Nobody was on AOL, and even going back here to Yahoo was also a plant. So you go all the way up here to 2012, and I can't remember the first time they cancered him, but they basically said in 2008 or 2009, look, here's a little bit of cancer, Scarecrow. Change your tune, or you're out of here. And they give him a little scare, and he didn't figure it out. And then later, they can cause any kind of cancer. I know this sounds crazy, but they can cause any kind of cancer. I mean, Frank Church held the dart gun in 1976. Okay, so I mean, this technology's been around a long time. And Steve Jobs, victim. So what I was saying about you see this Pachenik and you see the Alex Jones. They want you. They're firing you up. They want you to get your gun and put gun porn on the Facebook and so forth. They want to glean all that information because then they say, oh, he's a potential terrorist. They want to create this terrorism watch list. If you notice, the no-fly list for the government, for the FBI, is only about 100,000 people. The terrorism watch list they won't even say anymore. I think it's around 2 million. But the reason for these hacks is to get more information on the terrorism watch list, get more things to get dirt on these people that are going to be attacked. This is the disruption campaign that I've been talking about. It's figuring out who the bad guys are. And the problem with this is it's not the bad guys, the terrorists. It's not the bad guys, the rapists and the murderers. It's the bad guys like me who speak out and say, hey, this isn't right. This is Stasi. This is Gladio from the Alan Dulles days. This is, go back to Israel with the Palestinians. Avi Braverman did the same program. So, with targeting key Palestinian people. So all I'm saying is this needs to be, here's Amy Rayo, very good friends with Eric Schmidt. She's running the Integrated Archive Solutions. Integrated Archive Solutions is another Bluffdale, Utah. All this information, all this dirt is going to be at Integrated Archive Solutions, guaranteed. She was the star of the Veritas films, if people don't remember that. So, same old story. Mark Rich ran this with Avi Braverman against the Palestinians most recently, but it goes all the way back to Lebanon and the PLO, and it's old news. So, anyway, it's time to just break up this. My point with McCabe here is that you're not even bothering to even give the appearance. At least Comey was subtle. You're not even bothering to give the appearance of that you're in on it with the bribe, the $675,000 bribe and the quid pro quo. He's openly admitting, hey, I took over the FBI. The CIA through JTTF took over the FBI, and I don't care. Here's $675,000. And you know what? Tomorrow it'll be $1 million. When it gets this bad, you have to have hearings. You got to open this up, let the sunshine in. They're going to go back to it. They're going to change the name, but at least let a little sunshine in and disinfect a little bit. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, I found out what they did. They put a little build in here. I didn't know you could do a slide build in this slide. So they like this slide, which is a good thing. I guess that means that I'm on to something here, because here is the Fort Liberté in Haiti. There's where they put the prison. They put the container ship right next to it. So the ship comes right in. They put the hospital 2 miles down the road. The medical students have no idea where these people are coming from. They're sedated. They pull the heart. They dump the body down in Mombasa, that supposedly gold mine. which is named Victory and all these other kind of things. And then they bring in here's the cruise line. They bring in the blue-haired folks, and they show them all the good stuff, and then they put the heart in, and away they go. Now, they might have to fly down here to Mirabalais, way out in the middle of nowhere, so that, there's nobody seen coming or going. But that's where the 1,000 peacekeepers are, defending the hospital. They're not down here in Port-au-Prince where there's political trouble. They're over here defending the hospital. So, or else they're at the 5-star hotel that looks like a fortress. So anyway, that is this. Like I said, final thing here. This is going to transition more into the Monica Peterson story over time. Braverman is a metaphor. Monica Peterson is the real hero. Braverman had a chance during the series to be that hero, and he chose not to, unfortunately. So Monica Peterson's going to be our hero. Thanks.